All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And my next guest, I have not had on this program for quite some time, Gerald Celente. And you listeners to this program are well aware that Bob Chapman used to occupy this Tuesday spot and has for the last 5 years. Helped one hell of a lot of people out there. Well, Bob Chapman is gone, and we have got to fill that void, and I can think of no other person better to do that than Gerald Celente. Buongiorno, my friend.
Buongiorno. Listen, I can't fill Bob Chapman's void, but, he was quite a guy. But I'll do my best in what I do in trends, but, Bob was one of a kind.
He was certainly that. I'm glad somebody didn't ask me to write the epitaph for this man, because I wouldn't know where to begin. I really wouldn't. But as for the still living, and we're struggling here, Gerald Celente, we are in a absolute positive meltdown in the world's economy, thanks to our international bankster buddies, the robber barons of all, and we don't even get a kiss and a thank you.
No, and I have to tell you, I believe that they're going to be able to pull this Ponzi scheme off a bit longer. And now that it looks like Germany is going to be yielding to the pressure to come up with some kind of a Euro bond scheme, even though, of course, just as the bailouts were against the Maastricht and Eurozone treaties, so too is any Euro bond scheme. Nonetheless, what are the treaties? They're not worth the paper they're not written on, so they're just going to do what they like to do. But they're going to come up with something to keep this Ponzi scheme going. I'm confident of it.
Well, and what they're trying to avoid is a total collapse. Nobody wants to see this dead cat bounce. So, as Mr. Bernanke has told us that, we don't think we need a QE3. Well, in fact, a QE3 has been ongoing, and in Europe they gave it a little nicer name. Gerald, they said it was austerity. Now, that sounds nice and flowery, but what we're really talking about here, and I have yet to ask you this question directly, but we're talking about trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. What is the true number that you've been able to garner out of this mess? I've heard between 1 and 1.4 quadrillion dollars.
Yeah, the best number that I've come up with as far as the Federal Reserve is about 23 trillion in terms of bailout and guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
Whether the derivatives are worth that kind of, that's a meltdown number. Yeah, that's what I've been hearing as well. But again, what they're going to do is, just keep printing money and playing the game. And remember, this is an election year.
Mm.
So I am confident that when we see the unemployment numbers come out, and remember we've had 3 bad months in a row, weak GDP numbers, I believe that they're going to pull something off to keep Obama in office, and they will also, as I said, do something in Europe to keep the Greek crisis from worsening. And again, as your listeners well know, being a sophisticated audience, that the Greek GDP only accounts for 2% of the Eurozone GDP. So it's not a big deal. And then, of course, Spain is right behind them, and then Italy after that. And what are we looking at? Spanish debt is about $1 trillion, Italy about $2.5 trillion. So there's no way in the world that this is ever going to be paid off. So with the new Eurobond scheme they're coming up with, they're going to extend this thing out. They're talking 25 years. So something is going to happen where I believe I was waiting for this thing to collapse forever, and I just keep seeing these new schemes undreamed of that they keep pulling out of their hat or pulling out somewhere else.
And the dark, dank place that we don't like to think about. Well, and here's the really weird thing about this, that if the people, and they're finding out, see, that this, Gerald, one thing I value pretty much above all is the truth. That's the moniker for the network, because you can't handle the truth. Well, apparently some people can't. And that we're treated like children. And that, my question about this, we saw the J.P. Morgans, we saw Citigroup, nobody's gone to jail over this thing. Nobody is being indicted over, you and I rewrite a bad check. We do this a couple of times. They'll put us in jail, so far in jail, they have to pump air and sunshine into us. But yet you sit and watch the biggest ripoff ever engineered by man on mankind, and everybody's just sitting there with a blank stare in their face. Now, this is, I've said on the program, that if people really look and they really do an accounting for themselves, a regular family is being taxed well over 50%. We are already starting to see inflation creep in. It started in food prices, it started in energy prices, and they're continuing to escalate. What we have not yet seen, because of all this funny money that's being thrown around, is we have not seen the hyperinflation set in. And people are going to be absolutely devastated when that starts happening, because if they're not already unemployed, they're already not choked with credit, or they're behind on their bills or mortgage payments or whatever. They are just a whistle through the graveyard away from total devastation and bankruptcy on a personal level.
Well, first of all, I have to correct you. There is no inflation in food and energy, because after all, we know that our government doesn't add in food and energy.
So if they don't report on it, it doesn't exist.
So it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's like once you're no longer collecting unemployment benefits and you don't have a job, you're no longer unemployed. It's the same thing. So that's the way it works in the USSA. And you mentioned about justice. The word is being misspelled. It's Justus, just us. Mm-hmm. And as you point out, when you bounce a couple of checks, man, they'll bounce you around.
That's right.
You get a drunk driving, and they throw you in jail, spread your legs and bend over. It's a new Supreme Court ruling. They could strip search anybody that they want. But John the Slime Corzine, the guy that brings down MF Global, there's no charges against him. Why not? Why hasn't a head rolled on Wall Street? It's very simple. His name's on Wall Street. I've said this many times. The name's Celente, Caruso, Mondavi, Puccini, Rossini. They call it the mafia. But the money changers have taken over the country. They've taken over the world. Austerity measures. So that's a BS name for let's rob from the people to pay off the bad bets the banks made. It's as simple as that. There's nothing complicated about this. So what we're looking at is fascism, the merger of state and corporate powers. So the kind of behavior that you're talking about is perfectly acceptable in a fascist society. And that's why you don't see any heads roll.
What geez, hands in the pocket, whistling through the graveyard. My God in heaven, this is becoming even apparent to the totally brain dead and uninformed out there.
That's because they're losing their money, they're losing their jobs, they're losing their homes. It doesn't, quick story. I was going broke between 2002 to 2007 because I had the nerve to talk out against the government. I was very popular around, especially when my book Trends 2000 came out in '96. I used to be on Oprah, the Today Show, CNN, all the shows. Mm-hmm. And then when in 2000, and the headline, you can go to our website, trendsjournal.com, and hit the forecast sheet, and you'll see from USA Today, December 14th, 2000, it read, Americans won't be, 2001 won't be our year, Trendseer says. Americans won't be safe at home or abroad. So forgetting whether or not you think 9/11 is an inside job, I don't debate whether or not it is or not. But all I said was that the United States was ripe for terrorism, and it's right there. We wouldn't be safe at home or abroad. So everybody starts calling me up, all of my friends in the media. I put a quote around friends. What happened? Why did they attack us? I said, what, are you kidding? I've been writing about this for years. It's called foreign policy. How dare you? It's not foreign policy. They hate our freedom and liberty. I'm saying this because then I came out against the Iraq War, the Afghan War, said what it would end up as, said what it would end up with the Iraq War, and then I was persona non grata. Nobody wanted to hear from me. The only reason their ears perked up again is when I forecast the panic of '08. I said it would happen. I took out the domain name in 2007. I'm mentioning this because the only way people listen is when it hits them in their pocketbook.
Yep.
And now it's hit everybody in their pocketbook. You got a bunch of kids that are graduating college, holding university degrees in worthlessness. How about a great master's degree in foreign affairs, or one in psych, or one in a Bachelor of Science in business administration, and you're in debt $60,000. So everybody's paying attention now because it's hit them in their pocketbook, because morality doesn't count. Hey, how about another Predator drone?
Yeah. And we're watching it. I've been chronicling this for nigh on 20 years, Gerald. I have been one of the watchmen on the wall blowing the trumpet till I was blue in the face. Well, people are starting to pay attention, but I knew that they weren't going to be paying attention in any sort of numbers until they themselves started to hurt. You know, the old saying is, and this is human nature. If you understand human nature, well, then you're halfway ahead of the game here. But you know, the old saying, you know, it's a recession when the neighbor's out of work. It's a depression when I'm out of work. Well, this is non-recoverable. And for our vaunted leaders to be sitting in Washington, D.C., and not having serious discussion on what the hell we do with these banker bastards right now. I mean, we've cast them off before. We can do it again.
Well, again, look who these people are. You know, I just got back from Germany. I was in Berlin and Frankfurt, and it was my first time there. And as I'm looking at Berlin, I'm saying to myself, boy, this place must have been grander than Paris before World War II. I mean, the sidewalks, you know, they're triple the width of what we have here. Cafes everywhere, people sitting outside. Bicycles are so wide that people bicycle on. Oh, the sidewalks are so wide, people bicycle on them. And wide boulevards. Nothing's over about 10 stories. And so all lights shining in everywhere, parks, wide boulevards, medians in the middle with trees. And in between all of these gorgeous buildings are new construction from all the bombed out stuff. And I'm saying to myself, and everywhere you go you see this. Beautiful, 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 beautiful architecture, German architecture from the late 1800s, early 1900s, and then in between it, all new construction, 1950s, 60s, 70s. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying to myself, how could the Germans, and they had to be, in my estimation, the top of civilization in the 1930s, when you look at what was going on around the world. I mean, this is the land of, you know, nothing, you know, Bach, Beethoven, Goethe, Einstein, Freud. I mean, you know, brilliant people. Yeah. How could they let a two-bit freak destroy their country? A two-bit freak that Charlie Chaplin played better than he did. And I'm Italian. Same thing. You look at Italy. You know, again, not for nothing, you know, Da Vinci, you know, Michelangelo, Rossini, Puccini, Caruso. How could they let a two-bit freak destroy their country? Let's go back to the United States. How could we let two-bit freaks destroy our country? You got them right there. You want to see a two-bit freak? Turn on the presidential reality show. Look at the last round of these so-called debates that we had with the Republicans, with the exception of Ron Paul. Look at George W. Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld. You want to see two-bit freaks? In my book, only speaking for myself, it's a two-bit freak show. And so, what is it that to answer your question, why aren't they doing anything in Washington? Why weren't Larry, Moe, and Curly doing anything?
I mean, it's a two-bit freak show. These are the same people you hated in high school and college that wanted to be class president and head of the student council. They're suck-ups, the brown-noses, the glad-handers, the overly ambitious, and the insincere. And they follow their career path to become politicians.
You know, I used to fly. I flew a few patrols over the Berlin Wall, and to look at East Germany versus West Germany, what a dichotomy. And I'd spent a little while in Germany.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, gotten to know the people, and every once in a while, me standing there in an American uniform, every once in a while being on the trolley, you know, every once in a while I'd get this look out of the side of their face looking at me going, yeah, you guys still here? You know, kind of look. But I know exactly what you're talking about. And
it's the human spirit.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
It's being destroyed.
People do not have the civic or moral courage to stand up and speak out.
Well, you know what they're waiting for now, Gerald? They're waiting for the bottom to drop out. You know, it's no, and here is what's behind the melding of the military with the police getting ready for the martial law, because they know exactly what's coming. The only question everybody has is when are they going to pull the financial plug? Now, this plug, you and I will not disagree on this. This financial plug should have been pulled a long time ago. This association with the Federal Reserve creatures should have been pulled long ago. And there's only one guy, and you were mentioning presidential politics here. It was as if Ron Paul was never in existence.
That's right.
It's now Mitt Romney and it's now Barack Obama. Well, Gerald, some people are suggesting to me that until something is done, and here's part of the fear here with Mr. Romney getting the presidency, we'll have the same thing that we had under George Bush continued under Barack Obama. We'll have the same thing for Mitt Romney. Some are suggesting, Gerald, that maybe it's better that this man gets the presidency for the next 4 years because there needs to be a revolution take place in this country. Otherwise, we are done.
Well, I agree. You know, we are done. And no matter who wins, to me it's a criminal operation. The Democrats, Republicans, Gambinos, Bananas,
yeah,
you know, it's the same thing. You know, by the way, I say this with experience. I used to run political campaigns out of Westchester County when I got out of graduate school, and many years ago, and I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. And so I was, you know, I saw it, you know, firsthand.
You were right in the epicenter of body politic.
Yeah, and I was also in the 70s. I was down in D.C., between D.C. and Chicago. I used to work for a trade association putting together political action committees when they were brand new for the chemical industry. So I know what it looks like. And one of our chief contributors to the Trends Journal is Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who, of course, was the former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. So we're a bunch of guys, you know, that know what it looks like. I know who these people are. It's a freak show. It's no more than that. So as we're looking at it, and as I said, to me it's a criminal operation, I'm calling for a voters' strike. My belief is that if 40% or less of the people could turn out, do not go, the vote turnout is 40% or less, we could call this an illegitimate election. Because I'm not going to support a lesser of two evils or be a part of voting for a criminal operation. I will not be an accessory to the crime. And so that is going to be, that's my campaign. I'm not going to, why should I vote for these clowns? It's an endorsement for them.
Absolutely.
And anybody thinking that one guy going in is going to do different than the other guy, I mean, it's like electing the president of a country club. Okay, next year we're going to expand the swimming pool. No. If I get elected, we're going to put more tennis courts in.
All except the root problems. And there was only one man that was in the presidential race that had the answers to many of our problems, and he was disincluded by the media.
That's right.
When Ron Paul first started running, and somebody put together, and this was very interesting, that they put a montage together of all the networks within a 48-hour period, and they were all singing the same song. Ron Paul, he can't win. Ron Paul, he can't win possibly. Here's the field. It was almost as if they were reading a script.
I know. I did. I was, every day, when you subscribe to the Trends Journal, each day we do trends in the news features, and that's what I was doing virtually after every debate. How I go through the newspapers and the media and show how Ron Paul wasn't even mentioned, or if he was mentioned, he was just mentioned as one of the people in the debates. So yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
I know that you have limited time with us, and I want to thank Zeke, your media guy up there. I don't know if he had asked you. I've got some pretty big shoes to fill on this Tuesday broadcast. Do you think you could see your way clear to maybe spend 20 minutes or so with us every Tuesday?
I can't guarantee every Tuesday, but I certainly would like to do as much as I can.
Well, there's some pretty big shoes, and seeing how that you and people like Peter Schiff and all the people they were going to before to get them on air to talk about the economy, once it was discovered who the bad guys are, and, well, through the not mainstream media, of course, you guys had a little time in the sunlight in which to, tell people the trends, what's going on, what to expect. They're not knocking on your door anymore.
Actually, they still call on me, oddly enough. I was just on, of all places, Fox just a couple of weeks ago. And, so they still, but again, as I mentioned, in the older days, I was, I used to be on, as I said, Oprah, the Today Show, CNBC, ABC, CNN, etc. But now, of course, they are back, but it's a different media now. It's even dumbed down far greater than I could have ever imagined with the level of stupidity that they call TV news.
Well, and to their own peril, this 9 o'clock CNN, the English fellow, I forget the name of him, he used to do these talent shows.
Oh, Piers Morgan.
Thank you.
Oh, God, what a disgrace. What an arrogant little shit.
Billy Bob can't say that word on national radio.
Oh, you can't say that. Can I say that here?
But you're right. But, here's this guy. A couple of weeks ago, somebody got a hold of the numbers of people that were actually watching that show. Now, get this, Gerald. Out of an entire country that CNN was being piped into over the Internet, over cable, over satellite, 39,000 people were watching this fool. 39,000. So people, it's evidently it's not exactly registering, but they know that they're not getting what they need. So they're backing away from it. And if it weren't for the alternative media, if it weren't for the Internet, we'd have a hell of a lot dumber people in this country than we've got right now. And I'll be the first one to admit, Gerald, that 90% of the people in this country still don't know which end is up.
Oh, no, they really don't. And by the way, with that trip to Berlin was I was ready to leave the country. I've been searching for another place to go. I don't really, fascism isn't my cup of tea. And after coming back from Berlin, I decided I'm staying. I'm not. If any of them have a problem with me,
good for you.
They could come and talk to me about it.
Good for you.
Come alone though. Don't come with your goon squad.
Yeah.
Go at it man to man. And so to put my heart where my mind is, it's just how life goes. I bought right around the corner from where our building is, the Franz Roggen, F-R-A-N-Z, Roggen, R-O-G-G-E-N house in Kingston, New York, where our headquarters are, which was the first capital of New York State during the Revolution. And it's from 1750. And it's right on the most historic corner in the United States. The only place where on each corner there are stone buildings from the 16 and 1700s. And I just bought one of them. And I said to myself and my staff, if the first American Revolution began here, let's start the second American Revolution.
I'm all for that, my friend.
Let's have a revolution, not of bullets and bombs, but an intellectual revolution of the mind and the brains. Because this is a bad act. This is the presidential reality show. Here's President Obama on The View
Did you see that spectacle?
No. No,
Oh, yeah, Michelle and the kids make fun of my big nose and ears.
You know,
Can you imagine Eisenhower sitting there?
No. Hey, we're out of time here. I know you've got to run. Trendsresearch.com. And Gerald Celente, if talk to your guy. If you can do this with me every Tuesday, even if it's only for 20, 25 minutes, there's people that need to hear from you.
I'll do my very best. Thanks so much.
All right, Gerald Celente, thank you, my friend.
Bye-bye.